Here is your complete Part 1 emotional story, written for a powerful YouTube narration experience. The cemetery was silent except for the whisper of dry leaves scraping against cracked marble and broken dreams. Beneath a sky heavy with gray clouds, an elderly millionaire couple stood frozen before a cold gravestone, their trembling hands clutching wilted white roses. Their faces were carved by decades of success, loss, and regret, yet nothing had prepared them for the sound that shattered their grief that afternoon. From behind a crooked angel statue, a weak but desperate voice rose like a cry from another world. "Mother, Father, I'm alive." The words cut through the air like lightning, stopping their hearts mid-beat. In that moment, time itself seemed to collapse, as if the past and present had collided inside that lonely cemetery. The woman's knees buckled. The man's breath vanished from his lungs. Because those words belonged to a child they had buried 30 years ago. Before this story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of hope, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us keep bringing you stories that touch the heart and remind us of what truly matters. 30 years earlier, Daniel and Margaret Holloway had been one of the most powerful couples in the country. They built an empire from nothing, turning a small trading company into a billion-dollar corporation. Their mansion overlooked the ocean. Their cars shined like mirrors. Their names appeared in magazines and newspapers. But behind the glass walls and luxury, their lives were empty. For many years, they had only one dream that money could not buy: a child. When their son finally arrived after a decade of waiting, they named him Elias, meaning, God has answered. From the moment he was born, he became the center of their universe. They surrounded him with tutors, toys, private doctors, and security guards. Yet unknowingly, in trying to protect him from the world, they slowly took the world away from him. Elias grew up in golden cages. He studied in elite schools, traveled in private jets, and slept in rooms larger than most people's houses. But he rarely laughed with friends in the streets. He never climbed trees or scraped his knees. His life was scheduled, monitored, and controlled. Daniel believed discipline created greatness. Margaret believed protection meant love. Together, they built walls around their son so high that even sunlight struggled to reach him. As Elias grew older, those walls began to suffocate him. He longed for freedom, for adventure, for something real beyond polished floors and silent hallways. When Elias turned 17, he begged his parents to let him study abroad like other students. He wanted to live in a dorm, take buses, make mistakes, and discover himself. Daniel refused. Margaret cried at the thought of losing him. Their fear disguised itself as care. One stormy night, after another argument, Elias packed a small bag and slipped out of the mansion. He left behind a short note that said he needed to breathe. He needed to live. He promised to return. But he never did. 3 days later, news arrived that a young boy matching Elias's description had been found unconscious near a highway after a terrible accident. His face was burned. His documents were gone. He died in the hospital before identification. The authorities believed it was Elias. The Holloways were called. In their grief, they barely recognized the body. DNA tests were rushed and mistaken. Their minds were clouded by fear and despair. They buried their son in a white coffin, believing their world had ended forever. After that day, their empire continued, but their souls collapsed. Daniel became colder. Margaret became silent. They donated millions to hospitals, orphanages, and charities, trying to fill a hole that nothing could repair. Every year, on the same day, they visited the cemetery, standing before the grave of the son they thought they had lost forever. And every year, they whispered apologies into the wind. Meanwhile, far away from wealth and comfort, Elias was alive. The night he ran away, he had been robbed, beaten, and left unconscious near the road. A poor truck driver found him and rushed him to a small clinic in a rural town. Elias survived, but he lost his memory. He didn't remember his name, his parents, or his past. With no documents and no family, he became another forgotten soul in an overcrowded world. The clinic released him after months. He wandered streets, slept under bridges, and survived on leftovers. People called him Noah, because he said his name felt like that. He accepted it. Years passed. Memory returned slowly, in fragments. A piano melody heard from a window. A smell of ocean air. A woman's soft hands brushing his hair. A man's deep voice giving advice. But the pieces never formed a full picture. He felt empty, as if a part of his identity was buried somewhere he could not reach. He tried working odd jobs. Construction sites, restaurants, warehouses. But injuries, illness, and lack of documents always pushed him back into poverty. Eventually, he became a beggar, sitting near markets and stations, playing a broken harmonica for coins. One winter evening, while sheltering in an old library entrance, Elias found a torn newspaper page. On it was a picture of Daniel and Margaret donating millions to a children's hospital. Under the image were the words, "Billionaire couple honors late son's memory." Something inside him shattered. Their faces were familiar. Painfully familiar. His heart pounded. His head burned. Memories flooded back like a broken dam. His name. His room. His mother's perfume. His father's strict smile. His escape. His accident. His life before darkness. He collapsed, crying on cold stone floors, realizing he had been dead in the eyes of the world for 30 years. For months, Elias tried to reach them. He went to their company offices. He was chased away by guards. He wrote letters. None were answered. He stood outside their mansion gates. Police removed him. To everyone, he was just another mad beggar telling a strange story. Slowly, hope faded. Until one day, he learned from a street vendor that the Holloways visited their son's grave every year on the anniversary of his death. Elias marked the date in his heart. That day arrived wrapped in gray clouds and cold winds. Elias walked for hours, barefoot, weak, and trembling, toward the cemetery. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. His clothes were torn. His hair was tangled. But his eyes burned with determination. This was his last chance. Either he would be reborn, or disappear forever. When he saw them standing there, older, smaller, and fragile, his heart almost stopped. His parents looked nothing like the powerful figures from his memory. They looked broken, tired, lonely. He hid behind a statue, watching them place flowers and whisper prayers. He heard his mother sob quietly. He saw his father wipe tears when he thought no one was watching. Guilt crushed him. Fear froze him. But then he remembered 30 lost years. 30 birthdays. 30 silent nights. 30 missed hugs. And something inside him screamed for justice and truth. He stepped forward, his legs shaking, his voice breaking, and shouted with every ounce of life left in him, "Mother, Father, I'm alive." At first, they thought it was the wind. Then they turned. Their eyes met his. And the world collapsed. Margaret screamed and fainted. Daniel stumbled backward, gripping the gravestone as if it were the only thing keeping him from falling into madness. The guards rushed. Doctors were called. Tests were done. DNA confirmed what hearts already knew. The beggar was their son. The media exploded. Headlines screamed, "Dead son returns after 30 years." The world watched. But inside the hospital room, only 3 broken souls existed. They cried. They held hands. They apologized. They forgave. They mourned lost time. They promised never to waste another second. Elias received medical care, therapy, and education. But more importantly, he received something he had never truly had before: unconditional love. His parents learned humility. They learned that control is not love. Protection is not prison. Wealth is not life. Together, they rebuilt their family, not with walls, but with trust. Years later, Elias opened shelters for homeless youth, clinics for undocumented workers, and schools for forgotten children. He never forgot where he came from. He never forgot hunger, cold, and loneliness. He used his pain to heal others. If you are still watching this story and it has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who need hope the most. And before this story ends, please comment below, "I believe in second chances." Let's spread kindness together. On quiet afternoons, Elias still visits that cemetery. He stands before the empty grave that once held his name. He places flowers, not for death, but for rebirth. He thanks fate for giving him another life. He thanks his parents for learning how to love. And he thanks every broken soul who reminded him that even from the darkest places, light can rise. Because sometimes, the greatest miracle is not surviving death. It is finding your way back to love.